Hi, welcome to Awakenings Within. And I am Sandy Archer, one of your co hosts. And we have a new co host tonight. His name is AJ Mayorga. Did I say that correctly,
You
AJ?
you did. You did
All
great.
right, great. I've known AJ, we were just discussing for a while since, how old are your twins?
15. So
15. So it's
actually, it was
been
before then. It was before then.
16 years.
16 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
Very
We
long.
attended the same congregation, the same church, and that's how I met AJ. And when I started to think about relaunching Awakenings Within, of course, without Bob, I thought, who? And I kind of prayed about it and asked God, who, and AJ's name came up, and I have no idea why, but it was a pretty good, awesome thing because as soon as I started to talk to him about it, I see he brings a lot to the table and a lot of things that we've discussed on the show previous. He has a lot of same kind of content, and so you know God knows what he's doing. So how about that? So, all right, AJ, welcome
Thank
to
you.
the show.
Thank you.
So
Glad to be here.
you and I are gonna kind of we're gonna turn Awakenings into talking about probably more current events.
Sure.
I think that's what you and I have discussed that would be good, and that means all things that are happening still. I created the show during the beginning of the pandemic. That's why it was created, was to help people to get through and to discuss things that were happening. And that's how we still want to go forward. So anyway, AJ, thank you. And you and I were talking about a couple subjects. So let's start with the first subject we're going to talk about. So
Yeah.
what would you like to talk about first?
Yeah. So we were discussing Nancy Pelosi's. I don't know if it's the latest video, but it's a noteworthy video for sure. Um,
Yes.
and as much as it's funny, it's a collection of feelings all in one because it's sadly you smirk at first, and then the darker kind of truth of it kind of settles in,
Yes.
and it shakes you when you start looking at it because here is a person of immense power and authority, who's unhinged,
Yes.
who is speaking to the press and not making a bit of sense.
No.
So
So
and
so let's talk about the clip that we're talking about.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So we
it's the one where she went in front and did a
yeah,
conference.
yeah, the
Uh,
privilege, was it privilege stroking?
it's bird bath and privilege scrub because
Privilege
the aggregate bill gets a bird bath, and
and
then
scrubbed.
then over here it's privilege scrub.
I
But
don't know.
we have no idea what she's talking about. Like,
I just
what?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's at first you kind of chuckle because you're like, what? It's nonsense, and then
Right.
you have to, and then the grimmer thoughts start to settle in that
The
either
reality of who who is she and what is she doing right now?
she's
And
third in line for the presidency. Yeah,
I
so there's that. Um, but I mean, this person, I mean, she was talking about retiring. Hopefully, that's um,
right.
sooner than later. And
Yes.
actually, the rumor came out that she was thinking of retiring to Florida. And
Uh,
yeah, yeah,
what?
yeah, the state that she
Florida that she hates?
beats the mess out of uh,
Oh my goodness.
Ron DeSantis and
She'll
everything.
be she'll be she'll be neighbors with Trump.
Well, he'd have a time
Who's
with
your
that.
neighbor, Trump?
He'd have a
Nancy
time with that.
Pelosi.
I'm sure he would no problem be like, "Hey, Nancy."
She walking her dog. Maybe she can share that expensive ice cream
Good lord,
that she had.
that is insane to me. That is insane to me too. But yeah, so
I'm sorry. I'm
she was.
laughing, but I'm not laughing. I'm laughing because it's absolutely mind blowing that these are the people that are
Yeah,
making bills.
I don't find humorous the circumstance or her mental deficit. I find humorous the absurdity of the situation that is
That's what
happening.
I that's
It's like it's almost like if you don't laugh, you cry. You know. And like I was saying earlier, but it's scary though. And then you're kind of taken back. You kind of feel, first you chuckle and you're kind of like, and then you're kind of like, it's kind of sad. And then if you start to really kind of ponder on it a while, you're like, how does this happen? And again, she has to have a constituency and a base that's so home team. We're always going to vote for the party and disengage,
right,
so that at the same time,
right,
you could run a cabbage with a Democratic label on it and it would probably win. Um,
right, right. Well,
so
do
that
you remember Strom Thurmond from South Carolina?
yeah,
Remember how long he was in? That's why they're talking about doing term limits. It, they
yeah,
need term limits. They have to because
yeah.
I mean, and nothing against anybody, and I'm not being ageist, but
No, no, no,
there
no, no.
is a point when you're not capable of doing, quick decisions
No, that's
and your
true.
reactions
That's
and
true. The term limits, I think, goes. It's deeper than that. It's more fundamental to that. It's the exact reason why they'll never bring it up, because they want to float this illusion of, oh, well, you need to be an experienced politician to do. No, you don't. No, you don't. You need to
oh,
be an upstanding and successful member and productive member of your society, who the people and the base think that you can represent them well. That's it. Um,
yeah,
they're not
yeah,
legal, whiz kids or financial wizards by any stretch of the imagination. They have to consult
right,
with other people, just like any other business would have to, or whatever. So it's about being effective, being pragmatic, having a sense of what's ground truth, all these sort of things. That's what makes a leader. But the real reason for the term limits is corruption. And the average salary of a congressman is 140, 144, 145,000 a year, something like
yep,
that.
yep,
Vast majority of them who have been in power or have been in office for more than 10 years are multimillionaires, and they did not start that way. How?
yeah. Yeah,
And they
that
all want to
that
beat
that
the
makes
drum,
you
and
think,
they all
and
want to
then
beat the
they
drum
get paid. Yeah,
about, we want to see Trump's tax returns. No, 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 no. You've been in here collecting $145,000 a year salary for 10, 20 years, and all of a sudden you're a millionaire with 6 mansions. Let's see
yeah.
your,
How'd that happen?
yeah.
Was it good investments? I mean, I wanna know.
Well, Pelosi was one of actually Pelosi was called out on it a while ago. Actually, she was actually in one of the committees that was reviewing and getting ready to vote on a bill that would affect credit card industries. And just prior to that, her husband goes out and buys like $3 million worth of Visa stock, which skyrockets after the bill is signed.
Huh.
So, hmm,
Hmm,
yeah,
I don't know. How'd they get their money again?
yeah, yeah. So the term limits cuts to that. Uh,
Yes,
you're out. And that's it.
yes,
You
and
do your four and out. It's four and out. Not
that's what I think, and I'm not going on age. I'm just saying she's been in too long. She's been in too
yeah,
long. Strom Thurmond, he was in too long, you know?
yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
the thing is, when you're plucked out and you're in a political sphere, you
uh-huh.
you it's about being pragmatism before you lose any sense of pragmatism because you're not in it. The farmer who's milking the cows and working the fields and having to figure out how he can survive. That gas is shot through the roof and his milk is worth less now. How does he do all this, and having to deal with bad crops and bad harvests and weather and all these? That's pragmatism. That is the real ground truth of it. When they're sitting back and the energy secretary, just the other day during an interview, when asked about, well, how do we decrease oil prices, laughed and said, oh, that's a good idea. Or, how? Well, first off, how about we don't cut our supply short, of which they're talking about
How
shutting down
about
another
we
pipeline.
stop right, messing with our own
Yeah. We were, say what you will about Trump. We were energy independent when he was in office. We
yeah,
did not need to import gas, or we were
right,
exporting more than we ever have.
right.
And now that's all gone. And the thing, and it's such a ruse. People say, oh, because of environmental stuff, we want to get rid of oil and go towards these renewable energy sources and whatever. But here's the deal: we're not there yet where we can cut over.
We're not right. Look at
We're
what happened in Texas when they tried to do that.
Oh yeah,
Look what happened.
yeah, we're not there yet. Okay,
We don't have the solar power
we're getting
yet.
there, we're making strides. But the thing is that they want to say, oh, well, the environment, the environment, the environment, bang the drum, the environment. Well, let me ask you a question. Do you think that Saudi Arabia, China, or Venezuela have stricter EPA environmental protection rules than we do? And if your answer is no,
Definitely no.
why the heck would you be wanting them to take on the response of having to gen out more of it,
Right.
producing more pollution to provide us with it, rather than we make it here? What people
Right.
really are suffering from is NIMBY, not in my backyard. You know, and that's what they're suffering
Not in
from.
my backyard.
Yeah,
Oh, that's good. I like that.
yeah,
NIMBY?
yeah, NIMBY.
NIMBY. All right. I like that term. I'll have to adopt that term now. NIMBY. Well, but that's the problem is now we I mean, look at a supply chain. Why would we have a supply chain shortage if we had everything in our country to be able to run our country and sell our goods and all that? There should be no supply chain issue.
Quite,
You know,
quite,
we should be self-sufficient. And
quite.
this is such an issue of, they made the farmers stop farming, paid them to stop
Mhm.
making crops. I mean, what? Because we want to, hire the other countries and get their foods, you know, shipped to us.
Well,
That's
yeah.
ridiculous.
Well, that's how it goes. The
It's
politician
ridiculous.
politician creates an edict, either through mandate or votes on a bill that is going to provide, you know, oh, we need to raise 10 billion dollars to give out to farmers. And then,
Right.
oh yeah, it's a great idea, and if you don't vote for it, you're anti-farmer. Or
Well,
whatever.
right.
In the meantime, inside of that bill, there's a bunch of other, superfluous, what they call pork junk, that's in
Right.
there. People who are like against it, who see that, they're like, oh man, that's awful. No, we're not doing that. And they're like, oh, you hate farmers. Or the
Right.
bill's called the Child Protection Act. Oh, you hate children.
Right.
It's such games. And then even on the other end of it, when they do pass the bill, oh, we collected, 10 billion for farmers. All right, cool. Here, farmers of America, here's your 1 billion. We have 9 billion in administrative costs.
Right. 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 Right.
That
It's
comes,
wrong. It's wrong.
yeah,
It's not
for,
right.
for
It's
now.
all wrong. I just moved from Kansas back to Virginia,
Mhm.
and driving through, all of the cornfields, they've got the little signs in there on what GMO seed is planted in that crop,
That's your
right?
Monsanto. Yeah.
And that is scary. Like going through there, seeing that was like, wow, how much of all of our farmland now is owned by a company and
Mhm.
not by actual people, farmers, you know, Farmer Joe down there. There's no Farmer Joe. Now it's a big corporation, corporate, and they're the ones controlling this. So that's where it's getting really, you know, all the layers are kind of coming through in the pandemic. I feel like the layers, all the wheels fell off. I feel like all the wheels have fallen off. Like every single wheel that we thought was driving the car,
Mhm.
driving our country, all the wheels fell off.
Yeah.
We now see things, or some people see things as they are really now, or some people are so radical on one side or another, and now we're getting divided continually. Like every single subject that comes up is a division of thought. You cannot even speak your thought or your mind without someone attacking you for your opinion, on something, even if it's in truth. And so that's where I have been struggling, is it's like it's in trying to go through the weeds of truth and finding what is true.
Mhm.
We've always known politicians were politicians, right? I mean, we've always known there's a lobbyist over here vying for this guy, there's lobbyists over there, but now it has become so central to our not having confidence in some of our leaders. Now, there are some out there that I think should still be supported and are fighting for our rights and fighting for all these things up there. but they can easily be corrupted too, right? So that's that. I wish there was a way that we could change that, but it comes back down to the same
Yeah.
wars, doesn't it? It comes back to good and evil. It comes back to the foundational thing that's said in the Bible about, you know, I mean, this is cyclical. This has happened
Mm,
over and over. This is not new. This is, I mean, the pandemic is not new. There were they called them plagues, okay? So this is not new. But what it does do is it makes you recognize where we're at foundationally as a country
mm,
and foundationally as people. And I believe this has shown me, in Revelation, it talks about brother turning against brother, parents against children, and vice versa. If anything hasn't shown that is the vaccine thing, right? Like
yeah.
that has divided so many people that I know of. Like this vaccine thing has just, like I mean it's shocking at how many people are turned against one another now. They're not friends with them. They won't hang out with them
Yeah.
because of their view on a vaccine,
Yeah. Though this might sound weird. There's 2 points to that. 2 takes to it that I have.
Yeah, I'm sorry I went down the road.
No, it's cool. But there's 2 takes to that, and the first one is it's going to get a lot worse before it ever gets better.
It is.
It is not going to be nobody that we elect in the next election cycle is going to be able to pull this back, and my feeling is nor should it. Because the thing is that anybody who was able to step in and supposedly be able to take care of business and get things back on track wouldn't really be able to do so. It's the thing that Trump found out. The thing is, I think he genuinely wanted to go in and effectuate change, and from a magnanimous kind of perspective, his own. I'm not saying it either which way. People can take it however they want.
Mhm.
He did not need the job. Didn't need it. He's already a billionaire. He can go home. He can do whatever he wants. But he felt that he wanted to do something. He saw something was happening, and he thought that he could get in. And he thought that kind of being the bull in the china shop, he was going to be able to get these things done. I think what he discovered, he did not have any clue how deep the roots of the swamp are.
Oh yeah.
And they are very deep.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
thing that's going on with this now is as things start to the social structure starts to decay, eventually it's going to rot back to such a point that the true portion of the abscess will be exposed. The politicians used to be very plastic, smooth talkers, people that you didn't really know if they were honest or not. Seemed like maybe they're honest, seemed like maybe they were
Right.
well spoken, very polished, upstanding, appearing people. Today they're a mess. They're absolutely a mess. As we were just talking about with Pelosi, she can't string her words together. The Pope is allegedly, the president apparently went and pooped on the Pope or something to that effect. I don't
Did
know.
what?
The Biden, when he was with the Pope, it's been through sources at the Vatican who actually said that he was in there and lost his physical facilities in a public space while meeting with the Pope. Yeah,
Oh
and that
my
caused a big thing.
gosh.
I mean, he can't string anything together, and that's been that way for a
Oh,
while. And if you go back and look at the speeches that Joe Biden gave back when he was vice president with Obama, vice today, no
not even close.
reasonable person could say that he does not have some sort of mental deficits or condition or something that's happening right now, dementia or something.
Something.
So,
Something. And that's
so it's
that's why
cutting back.
how can we
It's
do
becoming
this?
more, it's becoming more exposed. I mean, things are
Right.
starting to peel back. You're starting to see this, and then the next layer is the media.
Oh, yes.
The media have more power than politicians do, because
Do
consider if you have two politicians, each of them have $10 million to spend on advertising. If the media likes one politician, take your $10 million. Thank you. I really like you. You'll get more airtime than the guy over here
Oh, yeah.
who it's going to cost you $20 million to get some airtime on my
Right.
show. And maybe I'll play it, 1 to 3, play your commercials 1 to every 3 of the other one or whatever. They're the ones
Right.
who can do this. Every news story is a horror story or a fear story. Scare you and fear you, scare you, fear you, keep you clicking, keep your
Well,
attention.
have you been following the Rittenhouse trial?
Oh, I have.
Okay.
I have.
So
It's made me
what
so
they
angry.
vilified, so the media vilified this kid,
Yeah.
right? Vilified him. Didn't have all the facts, anything.
Oh, you
And
call him a
then
domestic
finally
terrorist,
now
all
the
that mess. Yeah.
facts are coming. Huh?
Call him a domestic terrorist ever before the trial came
Right.
out, that he was
Right.
guilty of murder before all this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I watched a show today with Geraldo,
Mhm.
and Geraldo called him a dopey kid, you know, and uh Judge Jean, she's on there also. It's a really good show actually, and she was like, "Don't call him dopey. You know, he's just a kid that knew CPR, wanted to help his community. Now, you know, walking around with the AR, I'm not sure that
Yeah.
you know,
No, God, God love him, because you know why? Because
yeah,
at that time there was murders happening, people were
right,
burning down, people were losing their
right."
minds.
And he was
It was
helping.
a violent situation he went
Right,
into. He brought a weapon with him to protect himself and
right,
those that he was going to look after.
right,
That's not unreasonable. That's not
right.
in any way close to being. They're trying to make it like he went there to hunt people. He did not. He went there armed to first off present what they call a show of force. Don't mess with me. And of course,
Yes,
the fluffy ones they try to mess with him, and he ended up shooting two. And that boy was wrecked about that. We
yes,
saw him on the
yes.
stand.
And
You saw that it
they
tore him up so badly.
yes.
And the other
I
guy,
feel for the I feel for him, I really do. I
yeah,
mean,
and the other
he
guy who he blew his arm off, he
yeah,
was asked point blank by the prosecutor. It wasn't until you pointed your gun at him did Kyle shoot at you. Is that correct? And the guy said, yeah. You in the middle of shooting going on, you have a gun, you aim it at me, you defend yourself. You don't wait for them to shoot
right,
you. And then maybe if you live,
right, and the prosecutor was saying that, "Oh, you don't defend yourself until after the the other person shoots you."
well, then you're
What?
dead. Yeah.
How how does that even
Is
make
that how the
any
cops do it?
anyway?
Is that how the cops
So
do
what
it?
happened in this case though is all of the wheels that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
There were 3 wheels on that. I mean, the president got involved, politics got involved,
Mm,
the media, and then this guy that's the prosecutor, he's running for DA. He wants to get a seat.
mm,
So all of those corruptive things all together is what's making this one case such a big case because the media tried to make it in a divisive way that he was a white supremacist, right? To
yeah.
start. And then I think he shot a white kid, right?
There's no people of the ethnicity or race outside of
Right.
being in the
So
whole.
they tried to make that, and once that was gone, then they tried to make it a situation that he shouldn't have been there with the weapon. So then they tried to make it a weapon issue. And then, and they they built it up, and even, the president said something about it, which is absolutely not appropriate. Like, the president shouldn't be speaking on something that hasn't even went to trial. Like, how
Yeah.
can they come in there and say something? So I feel really bad for this kid, and they put him on the stand, and he did well. He did
Mhm.
very well. He apparently he's doing pretty well with that, and that you can tell that um he's going to get probably a favorable
Well, I
judgment.
think he's in luck in that he has the judge he has.
Yeah.
The judge has outright admonished the prosecution numerous times
Yeah, the
for presenting
prosecutor.
for
Yeah.
presenting evidence that wasn't first disclosed and presented both sides, for bringing up things that were supposed to have been restricted and not discussed, for doing all kinds of inappropriate behaviors. And he's admonished him many times
Yeah.
over, telling him that you know better. I mean, like child scolding, finger wagging directly in his
Right.
face,
Yeah, he did.
type of things.
He was getting angry. He was
Yeah.
mad at the prosecutor, like, "How dare
So
you do
so
this when you're not."
I think
Yeah.
that Kyle's got he's blessed in that regard with having
Yeah.
a judge who's looking at this as from what I'm gathering, a purist, uh, taking their job as a judge seriously, and kind of pushing away the
Yeah.
political touchy, bad feelings stuff, and actually saying,
Well,
no,
I'm
okay,
I'm
what's the
kind of surprised they
case?
didn't ask him if he was vaccinated or not. No, if they would
Okay,
have brought the vaccination in there with his case, they would have had all of it. Like
obviously the devil. You're not vaccinated.
so so do you know what I mean? It's like this is our country has lost their mind. Like our media has. Okay, I take that back. Our country hasn't. In fact, I know lots of people that have not lost their mind. I'm not trying to say that to all of you,
Well,
but our media and our politicians, I just, I mean, I'm glad that some of them just won. I think that they are good people and hopefully will do something. But as we see what happens to a politician, as soon as they get into office, they see. I used to have a job where I was a manager and I quit that job because and the reason why is because I was the face of management, not managing or leading anyone,
hmm,
because I was just told how to do it, how I was supposed to be managing, and I had no authority. I had zero authority.
hmm,
Though I looked like I was the one in authority, right?
yeah,
So they put me in that position to have authority, and I thought it was my dream job. I was yay. I had zero authority. Zero. I was told how to manage the people. And when I was upset about something and wanted to fix something, I got in trouble. I got in trouble.
yeah,
So that's all I'm going to say about that because I was in a bureaucratic kind of situation. So I can imagine that's exactly what happens to the politicians. They get in there, they think they're going to lead, and
yeah,
then that person above them says, "Oh no, we're going to do it like this," and you're just going to do that, you know? And unfortunately, I don't know what the answer is except for to clear them all out from the top down and just say, "Let's start over."
it's again, as I like I said before, things over time are going to rot down and expose things, and we already know the politicians are being controlled because they can't make their own string words together, for God's sake, you know.
That's why. Yeah. Who's behind there? That's what I wanna know. I do
Yeah.
wanna know who's
So
behind there.
you have various entities of corporate America, worldwide corporate, actually, not even just corporate America. Um, Funny, consider we had our Keystone XL pipeline shut down, but Russia's pipeline, which was actually had sanctions against it, was magically lifted.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But the Russian
Oh.
operative was Trump.
Oh, I don't know. What happened there?
Yeah, it seems a little bit strange, don't it? Because if you're really about environment, then you care whether it happens anywhere, not just it happens, not in your backyard or not. But so yeah, so the media and corporate entities, for sure, and not all, but a significant players, let's just say, specifically in finance, and where there is what they call the military industrial complex overlays, those
Right.
corporations, um, and in media has become the absolute, you say opium for the masses, but it's really just, like any sort of person or, addicted to opium, you die because you.
You
um,
know, I try to limit my media, watching it. This morning, I turned on the news for, 10 minutes, and I heard the word COVID and vaccine, like 20 times. I was like, "Okay." I mean, why is this the only story ever anymore? Like, why
it
can't
works.
we move on to
It works.
something that's different than this?
It's because it works. They've
Ugh,
realized, but you're starting to see the problem that media has had is that they've had a good kind of hook set for a long time in people, but kind of quietly set. Um, and that hook is feeling. So you have lots of different types of people, but you have two general, and people kind of are on the spectrum of exactly where they lie with this, but two general types of people who react to media and into political things. You have those that are very pragmatic, ground truth, a lot of things bound in logic. Well, if this is like this and that's like that, 1 and 1 is 2, okay. And then the other
Right.
group is all about feelings and emotions, specifically how they feel about themselves. It's a selfish sort
Right.
of emotionality. It's a
That's right.
very emotionally immature person. And so the media loves that sort because
Oh,
that's the
yeah.
reason that
They
every
can
time you
control
see a
that
headline,
person.
it's, you know,
Mhm.
16 foods that might kill you. One of them might be in your refrigerator. Film at 11. What? Oh my God, I might die. I am afraid. Me. They got you. You're going to run to your refrigerator, take everything out, and make
It's
sure you're
probably spinach. Yeah.
so, of course, the person is the logical person is just like, that's crap, whatever, and moves on with their life. But
Right. But
you have
there's
these two different types. And those are the extreme instances, and everybody kind of has little things that they're a little bit more and the other on, but that's what they're bitten into. The
yeah.
thing is, though, is that when you constantly emotionally ring somebody and ring somebody and ring somebody, you have to go more and more to get the same reaction because they aren't as afraid anymore. They aren't as scared anymore. There's only so many times that somebody can cock back their fist before you stop kind of flinching. You're kind
Oh,
of like,
you mean since we stopped bleaching our groceries?
oh yeah, that's the thing.
You mean let's go back to the time that we were bleaching our groceries. The hell? Sorry.
Yeah. Well, the thing
I
is,
was like,
they
I
have, and that's one of the reasons I say that I think it's gonna get worse before it gets better, because media has to ratchet up things to death level threat now. It's no longer just insinuate worry. It's no longer just try to spark a little bit of fear. It's everything has to be life or death, and
yes.
you want to, and that's the level. Because people start to become desensitized to the fear stuff, so they've got to ramp it.
Yeah.
After a while, what they found is that people emotionally can't take it.
Uh-huh.
The people who struggle with some sort of mental health issues is horrible. You have all kinds of like things that happen from that.
Have
People who just
anxiety. Yeah.
eventually, yeah, people who eventually just fall off, like, I can't take this anymore. I'm limiting that. This is
This is
too
too
much.
much.
People who kind of wake up to the fact
Yeah.
of, why am I so twisted up and carrying around this
And
big bag
that's
of
what I'm
emotional brick?
concerned of.
You
And
know?
that's who I'm concerned about. That's who
Yeah.
I hope understands that bringing these things up to say, "Hey, listen, there's some truth to it, but not all, and you have to analyze things. You have to weigh them, you have to balance them, that you can't take everything, unfortunately, for face value, because we are absolutely the best class I ever took was in high school, not
Mhm.
college. I didn't go to college. It
Mhm.
was persuasion and propaganda, and it was
Yep.
the best class I ever took, and I wish I could remember. I looked for the textbook not too long ago, actually, because I was like, "Oh, I remember this. I remember this in this book. I remember taking tests on persuasion and propaganda and exactly what they're doing right now with
Mhm.
certain things." It's like, this is persuasion and propaganda, and this is how wars were started. This is how wars were won, because they got all their country people to go behind this one thing, you
Yep.
know. And this is what happens. So we have to just be aware of where we're at in all of this. I feel like there's truth to some of it, and I feel there's misunderstanding on the other side, and then there's total, untruths, that are just, spun out there. So I think it's
Yeah.
important that you, for one, do your own due diligence in investigating something. I'm sorry to tell you, I don't know if you guys know, but Google is controlled by some people. So
Yeah.
when you Google something, you don't always get the true answer. Did you
True.
know that? I didn't know if you knew that.
A
Uh,
great alternative to that, quick inject, is DuckDuckGo. Duck, duck,
Duck,
go.
duck, duck, go. Yeah. So just to tell you that that's how they are controlling your information that's filtered to you. So you want to know. I mean, simple things like who was this, who is that? Fine, that's out there. But if you want to know the truth, you're not gonna Google it. I'm just saying, and I hope no offense, Google, but you're good for music and for maybe Wikipedia. I don't know,
Yeah.
but
Well, the thing is any sort of issue that comes across media, you have to first realize who is delivering the message and what's their purpose, because they don't just do things without purpose. Okay,
follow the money.
so absolutely, media. If you look, it's always the same pattern.
Yeah,
Media wants to scare you, frighten you, anger you, outrage you. They don't ever try to lay something positive. Today, 1,000 puppies were saved by people in wherever. No, doesn't happen. Maybe, but it's on page 843 in column 6. And
that's
one.
too boring of a story. What are you
Yeah,
talking about,
literally.
AJ? Nobody wants to hear
How
about.
you might die today, or how might your neighbor kill you, or some kind of other such nonsense. It's always fear, outrage, mongering. It's always these buttons because people react to these things out of
Right,
instinctual, fight or flight almost. And
right.
so when you hear a news story, you have to put it through this filter. You have to say, okay, and why do they do that? It's so that you'll click on their link and you'll read their article. And in so doing, you see the ads pop up on the page that people paid them
Yeah.
money for. And so every time that you click on some crazy thing, it doesn't need to be true. How many times have you heard about them publishing stuff that's out and out lies? It was never a retraction anymore. Nobody does retractions anymore. And if they
No,
do, it's
no
several months later
retractions.
and nobody ever talks about it. So
No, I feel like not only is our politicians not following the same rules that they used to, but neither are the media,
no, of course not.
obviously. And in the corruption in both of those arenas are just huge. And then don't even get me started on the pharmaceutical
Oh yeah.
companies.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I know about them
Oh,
too,
yeah.
personally.
Pfizer is one of the most held stocks among Congress. Go figure
Oh,
that.
really?
Yeah.
How?
I,
Oh,
I will dig it up. I will dig up the source. I can't remember where I saw that the other day. I'll forward it on
that's
to
so coincidental. Uh,
you. Yeah.
I'm sorry. You all have to seek what's true. And that's the problem is that is if you're being spoon fed, you're
Yeah.
going to you're never going to know the truth. But if you do some digging and investigating and really getting down to the truth of what you need to know is truth, you can find it out there. You just have to. I mean, there's so many sources now. That's what's so confusing is where can we go? Who's going to tell us? We and I feel like we just can't look to one person, right? There's no one person out there to look for.
No.
However, I do think there is.
Yeah.
Um, but that's where all of that comes into. My foundation is God. Feel like He is the giver of truth. He's given us a book to follow. It kind of talks about all of these things that are going on right now. I mean, look what happened with the Pharisees. Look what I mean. Come on, like it's happened since the beginning of time. Beginning of this book. You know, um, look at all the corruption, the politicians. I mean, this is nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun. This is nothing new. It's a different way. It's a different tactic.
Mhm.
You know, but it's really the same battle, the same war over and over. And so you have to decide how you're going to filter the truth. And so that I think that's what the important place is for me personally is that I have to pray. I mean, I just have to pray for wisdom. I have to pray for discernment. And if I'm off, if I'm not doing that, then I do get pulled into the rabbit holes. And there's lots of opposite, you know, uh, what they call conspiracy theories, um, or that are out there. There's many of them out there that are true, they're not conspiracy theories if they're true, right? So,
It's true.
but however, that's where your discernment and your wisdom needs to come into play.
Quite
You
right.
know, people got to wake up
Quite
to
right.
seeking it out themselves and not allowing other people, just like even in your own journey, in your life, I mean, you can seek to other people to help guide you, but you still have to rely on you, as to be the as to filter what's true for you,
I think one of the big things and trying to navigate all the issues of today is a lot of people are hungry for information and knowledge,
Yeah,
but to know is only a portion of it. It's to understand, to know, to have the what and the why.
right,
And because there's tons of people who can regurgitate lots and lots of things, but they're just memorized stuff that they've heard somebody else say.
right,
That's the difference between intelligence and wisdom. Intelligence is like having a giant toolbox, all the shiny tools you could ever want. Wisdom is knowing that if you have a nail, you don't beat it in with a screwdriver, you use a hammer.
right,
How do
right,
you use that intelligence? So that understanding
right.
and that why, which is important to listen to people, try to find people that are smarter than you. Certainly not me. I'm not me, but I try to endeavor that because I always want
That's
to. I want to surround myself with smart people, people that get me thinking, help me to better
right,
understand and do that. And
right,
prayer as well, a big portion of it through prayer, prayer, meditation, and taking quiet reflection and asking yourself the right questions about the things that you've heard, and asking yourself what should you do, because in any times of crisis, even if you were extended from it, everybody can do a little something. You
right,
start with charity starts at home. You start with at home and making sure that you don't repeat the negative things that you're seeing in the outside world, that you're teaching your children, that
right,
you're not imbuing that negativity in yourself and on your spirit and bringing it home to your spouse, to your children, and doing it that way. So there is always
right,
things, but you have to know the what and you have to know the why to come to understanding. And from there, you make a decision of what it is you're going to do about it.
right. Because the only real thing that we can control is here. I
Yep.
mean, we can't control another person. We can't control sometimes our environment even. I mean, sometimes those things are out of control. We can't control the weather. We can't control anything. I mean, not really. But we can control our reactions to things. We can control, how we're going to get from A to B, but those are the only things that you can control. And in this type of things, we don't know all the truths, right? I mean, we're sitting here talking about issues that are going on, but we don't really know. I mean, we don't really know the truth of the truth, but we do have to listen to and hear that kind of guides us to, yeah, that sounds, analytical. I this corroborates that. I mean, you doing your own due diligence to, that could be what you are, you know seen as the truth in it, right? I mean, and then there's a collective of all of us that get together and we talk about this and we go, yeah, I agree with you, yeah, I agree with you. I
Hmm.
think that's what's going on. And that's where it's important for you to have community. That's it's important. It's important to have people that do have the same views as you also, and it's important to have people with other views, like opposite of you. you know like
Hmm.
AJ, I think you and I will probably be opposite on some of our views,
Could
right?
be,
So,
and that's
you
fine.
know because it,
It's
and it's it right, and that's fine, and you have to have the balance though, to not, if I don't agree with you, I'm not going to put a paragraph on your Facebook post that says how I disagree,
yeah,
because here's the thing. Usually people that have already made their mind up on something, that's what they believe. And
right.
you giving your opinion isn't always going to change their mind.
That's
Just
true.
because.
But that's a thing that a lot of folks need to kind of think about. Is it really your job to change other people, or is it your job to change and better yourself?
Right.
And being that the only thing you can change, like you had said, is yourself.
That's it.
The logical person, the person who's grounded more in their self and not living on this existential feely kind of way, is going to say it's not worth my time. It's not worth my effort. Why am I getting into this? You know,
Right.
those people who like to go out and do the soapboxing, the same type of person who stands on the corner with the sign saying you're going to hell and screaming at people, or makes the giant paragraphs damning somebody on a Facebook comment, they all suffer from the same thing. It's a giant need to be right.
Right.
It's a
It's
giant
ego.
selfish ego, right? It's a giant
Ego.
selfish feeling internally. The hole that they have inside themselves is ego. It's all about them, and it's never enough. They just want to
Right, and they
consume.
say that ego edging God out, ego is edging God out.
Yeah.
Like, so bringing God into this and, like, anything that's happening right now, like I said, you can find it in the Bible of an instance of this happening, besides, of course, fuel, but I mean, there are very similar stories in here. What did God tell them to do? Well, how did he guide them? What was what was his wisdom in that? And I think that's where people get lost. I think that's why we are lost. I think a lot of times, when you don't have God as your center, I think that's where we travel off. I know that because I was in the wilderness not too long ago, traveling off, seeking other things because I thought, maybe I'm wrong. What if I'm wrong? Let me go seek this out. But, nothing, you can tell the difference. Like the shifting sands were different. Like I wasn't so stable when I didn't have him as the center
Mhm.
of, my wisdom, in the center of, a decision or anything. So, I mean, that's my personal experience. Have you had that kind of thing ever, or?
Oh, me?
Yes.
Many times. Many times.
Right.
I'm a professional sinner and struggler.
Well, and we all are. And
Absolutely.
that's the other
But
piece
I make no qualms about knowing who I am and where I am.
that,
And
and
that
that's
motivates me to always have a humility,
right.
to never
Right.
be about the big enemy that I recognize is ego. Is definitely ego.
Yes.
Because when you start thinking that you can do it on your own and that you somehow have this power to control your life and your destiny, you are really setting yourself up for some soul crushing
Oh
experience.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Um,
I took a fall. I took a
yeah,
fall. I
but
thought I was coming from a place of love and then of wisdom and knowledge at the time,
Mhm,
and only to find out that I had kind of put myself up on the pedestal. I had taken God off the pedestal and put myself there.
yeah,
And that's hard. It's hard to admit. It's
mhm,
pride and
yep,
ego.
yep,
Pride and ego are killers to your soul.
yep.
And
Yeah, they're a lot like like drugs or alcohol. It feels really good though to be on that high of like, I feel so good and I about myself because I did this. Okay, or believing
yes.
in this lie of your um, what they call it, to the internal power that you're limited. That's not confidence though, and
Right.
it's a very different thing. It blends itself. Ego likes to blend itself as confidence or hide under that. When
Yes.
confidence is when you like you reach into an authority of your past and take a ground truth understanding of what your capability is and say, you know what, I've done this before, or I've done something similar. I can go ahead and I can do this. And I believe that if God wants me to do this, that I will be successful and I'm going to go forward and do this.
Right.
Ego flies in the face of I don't care what you say. I'm going to go ahead and do this. I don't care if you tell me I can't
Right.
sing. I'm going to go on American Idol and I'm going to win anyway.
Right.
It's these kinds of things, which always sets up for some sort of really crushing experience when that lie is revealed that you don't have that. You know.
Right. And I think sometimes in our prayer lives, like our ego can take over our prayer life. Like our ego isn't behind it, like I'm
Mm,
going to pray for these things, and if this doesn't happen,
Oh,
I'm going to do this,
yeah.
you know?
Oh, yeah.
So our ego actually
Trying to
is behind that.
wrestle God into some sort of special covenant just for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And if it comes true, like if whatever it was you were praying for happens, and you're like, "Oh, I had something to do with it."
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the funniest
Ego,
part.
entitlement, pride. Oh, yeah.
And then if that keeps happening, you're like, and that I've seen that happen to
Yeah.
others. And then when something life crushing does happen and that they prayed for, and then that didn't have the outcome that they wanted, guess what they did? They walked away from God
Yeah.
because they thought that God, wasn't for them, or wasn't,
Yeah.
working, because again, they had thought that they were the ones that had something to do with the prayer about it to make it happen. And that's a scary place to be. And that's a deep conversation. But
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's
because you can get fooled in yourself, that if you just put all these blanket